Welcome to your orientation at the Beechmont Olive Garden number 1323. I want to start with a brief personal introduction. I believe it's important to know who you work for in order to create a culture worth belonging to. So, I was born the oldest of six boys, and you can see my right eye on the right corner of the screen. Other than that, these are my brothers. Growing up, our house was chaos. My mother is a saint for having to deal with us. My family mostly lives in northern Ohio and Denver, Colorado. My youngest brother is 18 years and 20 days than I am. When I was very young, I was very into music, and from an early age, it had a profound impact on me. My best friend Brian and I, on the top left of the screen, started a band and spent 3 years on a tour in pursuit of making our dreams come true. It was the time of our lives. We met so many wonderful people and had so many of our dreams come true. I have so many great stories, including the one in the picture towards the middle and bottom of the screen. We had a show in Columbus, Nebraska, and the promoter booked it in the city square. And no sooner did we start playing that the police came and shut us down because we were just so loud. We were kind of known for that. But one of the kids who was watching us suggested that we play in a house that was recently framed and drywalled. His dad had just installed the electric that afternoon, so one of the coolest and perhaps most illegal things we did was play a show in the frame of a house in the late 90s. And this is a picture of that very experience. Now, I still love playing music. I don't play much anymore, just mainly for my sons. And for the most part, my music days are behind me, but I guess you never know. This slide is generally meant to generate questions for me. I am a yoga instructor, a marathon runner. I have two twin boys, August and Lito, that are the joy of my life uh, in an already joyful and full life. And the rest I'll let you sort of ponder on. I started at the Olive Garden as a server in 2008, and it didn't start well for me. My first few weeks were really a struggle. There was so much to learn. And that's one thing I like to keep in mind is that there's so much that you're going to have to learn and that I'm going to expect that you're responsible for. But I try to keep your experience top of mind. But I felt like I looked like a fool all the time, trying to remember all the steps of everything, so many steps. And early on, one of my managers asked me if I'd rather be a cook, noting that it wasn't working out as a server. I pleaded for another chance. And at some point, about 6 weeks in, something clicked. It all became second nature. I became the go to person for the managers. I worked as a bartender, host, line cook, prep cook, and dishwasher. And I also did to goes on an occasion, but to goes weren't as big of a deal back in those days. So I eventually became a trainer, and then a regional trainer, and then a sales manager, a culinary manager, service manager, and then was promoted to general manager in 2015. As a general manager, I had three different team members win Employee of the Year for the whole company in 3 different years. It was such an honor. And the team members were flown to a resort where the annual GM conference was held, given a suite to bide their time, and then they were presented their award before all 1,200 GMs, executives, and directors. It was an experience beyond their dreams. This past year, actually, it's been a while now, 2023, I won the trip of a lifetime. And I spent 10 amazing days in Italy, the heart of our inspiration. I learned so much about the Italian culture, history, and food. Before this trip, to be honest, going to Italy or Europe in general really wasn't on my radar. But this was such an incredible experience that if you ever get a chance to go or have gone, you will agree with me on this, is that um, you simply can't. 10 days is not long enough. So it is on my list now to go back. But the past 18 years have truly been amazing. And actually, this is an old script here. And so uh, in November, I will have been with the Olive Garden for 20 years. And I never would have thought when I had that interview in November of 2025 that I'd still be here now as a general manager. But to date, Olive Garden is still the third job I've had in my entire life. I loved every second of it. Even when things were difficult and challenging, there were incredible challenges and difficulties, but life is 50% good, 50% difficult, no matter how you cut it. And I wouldn't change a thing. Now, as the team will tell you, I love to tell a good story, especially when I'm in it. But this is only set out here to give you context. You can't know what the future holds, but I can tell you this. You've got a great opportunity before you, and the sky is the limit. And there is plenty of opportunity here at the Olive Garden. Now, I want to share with you some of that magical trip that I honestly still dream about going to Italy. It was sometime in August, actually, when my director, my boss, Pam Bradley, presented to me that I won the trip of a lifetime. And so this was absolutely incredible. I was so excited. I just felt on top of the world about the whole situation. And now, this is where your story begins. So consider, what is it that you hope to get out of your job at the Olive Garden? And what are your career aspirations? What excites you, if anything, about the story I've just shared? Now, if there's others with us in orientation, take a moment and discuss these questions. Let us adjust our discussion and turn our attention to our first topic, and that is the topic of culture. Now, you may be thinking, why are we talking about culture? Is this some sort of anthropology class? And well, the answer is no. If I were to tell you what I meant by culture at the OG, I'd simply say culture is what it feels like to be at work. Does it feel good? Does it feel bad? What is normal and allowed? And these are very general terms, so let's dive a bit deeper. The gentleman on the screen is Simon Sinek. He writes about the culture of the workplace. And Sinek always perfectly says what I tried to say using a lot more words, and that is, a culture is strong when people work with each other for each other. And a culture is weak when people work against each other for themselves. And this is so powerful and so true. If when we get busy, we instead decide to take the every man for himself attitude, we're destined to not enjoy our work. Our guests aren't enjoying their experience, and our business, it just suffers. Initially, it may feel against the grain, but if you can make that first initial step to reach out when we get busy, instead of work only for yourself, we can transform the work culture. We can have a place where it feels good to ask for help. Our guests are happy, and you're making more money because of it. So let's look at this idea through a couple different lenses. First, we're a culture of inclusion. Now, this is another way of saying that we're all welcome here. Everyone should feel respected based on who they are. We're strengthened by a diversity of cultures, perspectives, attitudes, and ideas. Please, please, please see a manager if your experience is ever anything different than this. So let's start out with our purpose. Why are we here? Well, this sums up to one phrase. We're here to ensure that the guest wins. How do we make this happen? Well, first, through inspiration. If you've dined out before, you probably didn't arrive solo at the restaurant and find another person dining solo and ask to sit with them. Actually, that'd be sort of weird. My point is that dining out is an act of human connection. Think of the last time you went out to eat. Who were you with? Was it someone you liked? Was it someone you loved? And the answer is most likely yes, and this is true for most of us. Sharing a meal together is an act of human connectedness. And OG is the number one place to dine for any dining event, from baby showers to birthday parties to funerals. Human connection is an important part of our lives. It's what we were built for. And it's an important part of our guests' lives. And this is often more of what it's about for our guests, other than the food. So keep that in mind. Now, next, we want to have a sense of pride in what we do. I'm proud to say that I work at the Olive Garden. And one of the reasons we spend all of this time in orientation talking about ideas like this is a sense of pride. We want to do well. We want to proudly declare, I work at the Olive Garden. Have a sense of pride in the work you do. Learn how to get it right the first time for our guests. And next, welcome everyone as family and friends. Now, I've given you a name tag. Read it. It says we're all family here. And this is an important part of our DNA at the Olive Garden. There's no asterisks on this idea. Everyone is welcome, no matter who you are, where you come from. You're at a place where everyone's welcome, and that is important. So our purpose is to make certain that the guest wins. We want to do this by inspiring their experience as one of human connection, having a sense of pride in offering our service, and ensuring everyone is welcomed. This is why we are here. Now, we have 5 principles that guide the way that we think about our culture. There's a lot of good information here, and we've touched on some of it. What I'd like to zoom in on is principle number 1, high standards. Why are high standards important? Now, during the interview process, what I tried to discover whether or not you were concerned with high standards, and those were baked into some of the questions that I asked. And I often get the feedback that some of the questions that I do ask in orientation are a little strange. And that's because I'm trying to find a creative way to get a gauge on your high standards. And so I can discover the potential for you to execute with high standards. Now, first, our guests, they expect it, and they expect for us to want to do a good job. Our guests come to us with the expectation of high standards. That's what they know the Olive Garden for. So hot food, friendly service, and a warm environment. And for us here, when we do something well, we get a reward, neurobiologically speaking. We get a hit of dopamine, if you will. We feel good about what we do, and we want to do more. No one really wakes up and thinks, man, I'm going to go to work and suck today. This wouldn't make sense and would cause us to feel extremely bad. So have high standards in the work you do. Feel good about it, and you'll do well here. Now, the next thing I want to touch on is respect. Why is respect important to you? Think about it. We all have the basic need for respect. The best work environments have cultures of respect. We all want to be respected, and so give respect, even in scenarios when you aren't respected. Now, typically, when someone is disrespectful to you, it's more about them than you. And this seems counterintuitive, especially at the time. But it's true. If you give respect, expect to be respected. If there are only 2 things you remember at orientation, these are the 2. High standards in the work we do, feel good about it. And secondly, respect. Give respect and expect to be respected. Next, let's talk about what we offer. Now, we live in a world that sells experiences, not just products. What we offer is the genuine Italian dining experience. And this is very different from an authentic Italian dining experience, and for good reason. First, our guests prefer what we offer. Our menu has been built around the guest's desired palate. Everything on our menu is something that is highly rated by our guests. And also, if you've ever eaten in Italy, it is a bit different. Although I was taken aback by how close that we get to the actual authentic Italian dining experience. But an evening out in Italy would really take the whole night, right? It's sort of an event. And our guests have told us in the past that one of the chief complaints they had was that they didn't want to wait more than 15 minutes to get their food. So we've made adjustments on this as well. So what is the genuine Italian dining experience? Well, there are 3 components. Number 1, food, service, and atmosphere. So let's start with food. You can't have a restaurant without food, right? Of course not. So if I asked you what the 2 main things are that influence the taste of food, what would you say? Now, certainly there are a lot of them, but 2 of them really stand out. Now, the first is presentation. The way the food looks is the number 1 thing that influences our experience of food taste. Now, the next one, I might preface by saying, do you put your salad in the microwave for a few minutes before you eat it? No, of course not. That's why we freeze our salad plates. We take it to extreme that our guests want cold and crisp salad. Now, on the other hand, when we consider hot food, we superheat our plates for hot food, and we take our food directly to the table once it's made. We don't stop and get drinks or bread. Food can drop as much as 30 degrees once it's pulled from the hot window. This is what is described as lukewarm food, and no one really likes lukewarm food. So this is the temperature of the food. So the 2 things, if I were to summarize those, are the way the food looks and the temperature of the food are going to be the 2 main drivers for how the guests rate our taste of food. Now, lastly, the environment. And now what I can tell you about the environment is that we spent almost $1 million in 2021 to remodel the restaurant. And we didn't touch the kitchen, the menu, or really anything else. It was just all about the atmosphere. Next, we want to talk about a brand. Now, This is something that is in our cultural zeitgeist, if you will, this idea of a brand. But what is a brand? Now, what do you think of when you see the Nike logo, for example? You might think of sports, shoes, golf, football, clothes, basketball, running. We could go on and on. But at any point, did you think victory? It's interesting, isn't it? Nike is actually the Greek word for victory. Instead of the idea of Nike having this one-dimensional meaning, victory, it means all these other things as well, right? All these ideas are baked into Nike. This is what a brand is. It's a word or idea that represents a whole slew of other words and ideas. So when you think of Olive Garden, what do you think of? Family? Maybe pasta? Breadsticks? Maybe wine? There's all kinds of things that the thought of Olive Garden brings up for perhaps you and our guests. It all sums up in our inspiration, our purpose, and our promises, right? We're inspired by Italy, by family, and by value. Our purpose, the reason we're here, is to delight everyone with the spirit of Italian generosity. And our promises to our guests and each other. And our promise is that we will provide never-ending, abundant, craveable Italian food. And it's served by people who treat you like family. And this is why people come here. And of course, our promise to one another is that we'll hold each other to high standards and treat each other with respect. If I could have you commit any 3 things to memory for this orientation, it would be that first, have high standards. Okay. Our guests expect it. And well, I mean, it feels good to do a good job, right? And the next is respect. It's not usually about you. And with this in mind, give respect and expect to receive it. These 2 ideas alone will get you far. Now, we'll discuss the third in a bit. Now, let's discuss the history of Olive Garden. The first Olive Garden opened in Orlando, Florida in 1982. And our company is still based in Orlando, Florida. We have grown quite a bit since then, and there's about 910 Olive Gardens in the US, and there's more than 50 internationally. The linchpin to our success as a brand has been our value offer. Now, what do I mean by that? People come to Olive Garden because everything is endless, but this wasn't always the plan. At the first Olive Garden, the first weekend was so busy, the kitchen crashed and the food was taking forever. So, in a panic, the manager at this particular, the first Olive Garden, he just said to the servers, give the people breadsticks, and while we're at it, give them soup or salad too. So, the next weekend, the kitchen was better prepared to support the business that they knew was going to come as a result of the previous weekend. And the guests came in asking, do you still have that never-ending soup and salad and breadsticks with every meal? So in the spirit of always saying yes to our guests, we said yes. And of course, a legend was born. And that is where this idea of never-ending abundance came from. And what we call our first course, the soup, salad, and breadsticks, is always never-ending. Whether you get it as a meal, the soup only, for example, it's always never-ending. Now, we're known for our never-ending soup, salad, and breadsticks, and our breadsticks are to die for. And every guest who comes to dine with us loves our fresh, buttery, garlicky bread. We serve more than 529 million breadsticks a year. That's a lot of dough. Now, the legend has become known as our never-ending first course. As I said, when you and your family or anyone else comes to dine with us, they always begin with their never-ending first course. All you can eat bread and your choice of salad or soup. And we'll be trying these if you're not already right now. Now, we work in a culture of teamwork, meaning though there are assigned jobs for everyone helps one another. Whether that is servers helping the bussers clean tables, bussers cleaning the side station, keeping it stocked with ice and iced tea, the host helping to run food to our hungry guests, or the line cooks helping out with the dish team, we all love to help. So consider what teamwork means to you and what it might look like in the restaurant as a result of you joining our team. Now, the words that we say are important. We have a specific reason for choosing the words that we've chosen to describe the nuts and bolts of the restaurant's functioning. So instead of referring to others you work with as employees, we refer to them as team members. We don't refer to those who dine in our restaurant as customers. Okay. Uh, I will often make the joke that when you say customer, I will act like I don't understand that word as if it's like, if you remember Charlie Brown, where it's just like, wah, 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 wah. But we call the folks who dine with us guests. OG doesn't have several stores. We have other restaurants, right? So not store, other restaurants. Choosing the right words is crucial in communicating effectively. And at a restaurant, it's important to use language that creates a positive atmosphere. So instead of calling the coworkers employees, it's better to use the term team members. And similarly, when referring to customers as guests instead of customers can make them feel more welcome. At OG, they don't have stores, but we have restaurants. So just to reiterate those points. Now, on your first day of training, it might be today, it might be another day, but you will have to take an online course on safety and sanitation. So when working in the kitchen, you're required to wear a hairnet, for example. Um, you're required to wash your hands often every time you go into the dish area. And you want to wash your hands, making sure that you are running water and lathering the soap for 20 seconds. There's going to be chemical safety. Everybody is going to be required to follow instructions on the labels and store the chemicals appropriately. We talk about personal safety. You know, we have standards that that when we're lifting, we keep our back straight and we lift with our legs. We always wear slip-resistant shoes. We never stand on equipment to clean, reach, or remove an item. We have ladders that can do that type of thing. And we never clean anything above high equipment. Clean overhead items in the morning when the equipment is cool, for example. Hairnets, gloves, and personal protection, these are all worn as required by Olive Garden and the state and local guidelines. We store all products 6 inches off the floor in a covered container. We follow storage levels to eliminate the chance of cross-contamination. When using a 6-foot or 8-foot A-frame ladder to reach items, it's imperative that you have somebody who's holding the ladder for you. And of course, we have an illness policy, which we will discuss, and that is just about communicating any kind of illness symptoms to a manager. If you're vomiting, have diarrhea, or a sore throat and a fever, those last two have to be a pair, then we are not permitted to have you work, and you'll have to be off until 48 hours after the symptoms have resided. And so, again, this will be covered in your day one training. I just wanted to take a moment and point these things out here as I do feel it's very, very important. Now, let's talk about your performance. Of course, we talk about in our culture that we are people focused and performance oriented. And what that means is that we're worried about you. We hire the person, right? So once a year, we will talk about your performance and perhaps several times in between. But at least once a year, you will get a performance review. If you're a non-tipped employee, meaning that you are not a bartender, busser, or to-go specialist, I feel like I'm forgetting one. But if you're a non-tipped employee, you could be eligible for a merit increase or a raise. So line cooks, hosts, dishwashers, prep cooks, all eligible for a raise. Now, if you're interested in moving forward with your career, we would love to talk to you about that. So please let me, Ryan, know. There are countless opportunities that are available. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We also like to recognize, your performance every day. And we do that. We have a lot of recognition pins. So everything you see on the screen here, we certainly use. However, I've come up with some things on my own that I hope you'll get a kick out of regarding being recognized for the hard work that you'll do every day. Now, when you begin training, always plan on arriving on time. Your performance will be expected in training. Be there and engage with the training provided. It's my expectation that you follow the trainer's lead. And if there's any concerns about anything, of course, let us know. But it's expected that you follow all of the training that is being taught with you and that you participate in all of it. Always bring your training guide. You've been provided this an orientation with you to work. So expect to get feedback on your performance. Now, a benefit that is immediately available to you is fast fluency. And with fast fluency, you can spend just a few minutes a day and learn to speak English. And you can also, it teaches you how to write in English too. So you can even share this with family and friends. Fast fluency is an immediate benefit that you get and you have access to right now. So, additionally, feel free to share this. We would like to have. Um, I feel like we feel like speaking English can provide more career advancement opportunities. So we want to make the investment to help you succeed and grow. Now, after training, you're going to be directed and given the opportunity to provide training evaluation to give us feedback on our training program. So please be open and honest with your feedback. We do review this fairly often. Now, let's transition a bit and just talk about the structure of the company. All right. So the details aren't as important here. I want you to kind of get a context for the way the company functions and the way we think about things. I think it's important to know that. So an important thing to remember is that the restaurant business takes place in restaurants, right? I think sometimes there's this idea of corporate and it's like there's these trench men in black suits who come in and make things happen, but really it's us in the restaurant every day. And by us, I'm including you. Um, Olive Garden Restaurants is in Orlando, Florida, but our leaders are in restaurants each day. Now, Shane Elrod is our vice president of operations. He's in charge of all the restaurants, and he has 10 SVPs. I think that's still true. But our SVP we're on the Charlotte division. Cincinnati is in the Charlotte division. And our SVP, he reports to Shane. His name is Chris Wayne. Now, just like Shane has 10 SVPs, if you will, Chris has 10 directors of operations. And that leads me to introduce my boss, Pamela Bradley. She is the director of operations for Region 25 is what we're known as. But she's responsible for restaurants from Coleraine all the way down to Lexington. And of course, I am the general manager of this location. So everyone on this slide's responsibility is ensuring that Olive Garden standards are aligned. We want to make sure that a bowl of minestrone soup tastes the same as it does in San Diego as it does in Cincinnati, right? So we are really focused on consistency and executing in unison, as you will, as a company. And we're all working in restaurants every day. And that includes Shane, Chris, and Pam. Now let's talk about your restaurant leadership team. Now, let's start with you, right? So there's you starting, and there's an opportunity, right, to become a certified trainer and perhaps move into what we call our service and culinary professionals. These are sort of assistant managers. The restaurant managers, there's 3 restaurant manager roles, and that is the culinary manager, service manager, and service LBO. Now, here, of course, I'm the general manager here. Pam is the director of operations, and Chris is the divisional vice president. So you'll see me every day. And Pam will visit us frequently, at least once a month, most likely. And Chris will visit us once to twice a year. All great people. They're interested in you and your experience. So please approach them. There's no kind of corporate importance placed on that. They're here to support you and make sure that what they're really interested in and what our job is to make sure that you are able to effectively take care of our guests. So let's take a minute and talk about our restaurant team here in the restaurant. So let's start with Bridget. Now, Bridget has been with the Olive Garden for over 30 years. Most of that time has been a team member. And she did such a wonderful job that we finally convinced her to be a culinary manager. So as the culinary manager, Bridget's responsibilities, she's in charge, first of all, of everything in the kitchen. That should make sense. She is in charge of the recipes. Okay, this is a big deal. If you are a culinary team member who is joining our team, we don't ever need you to remember all of the recipes. As a matter of fact, we have them available to you in several ways. If you're a line cook, they're available on the KDS screen, for example. We have what we call buddy posters, which kind of gives you shorthand for the recipe, and that is hanging above the window, and sometimes they're on the hoods. So recipes are important, and we want you to reference those frequently. Bridget is going to be doing your schedule. If you're a culinary team member, she takes care of that culinary schedule. And then we get feedback from our guests, right? And that is, she's in charge of this guest satisfaction score. So if our guests are telling us that, hey, something's wrong with the food, Bridget leads us to making the proper adjustments. And also she's in charge of food waste, which we call actual versus theoretical or A versus T. So just to give you an idea, not important that you understand all these things, more of just a context. But Bridget, these are the things that Bridget is in charge of. Now, Russ Johnson is our LBO manager. LBO just simply stands for lobby, bar, and outside sales. So it is a service manager position. It's just focused on those areas. Now, Russ is in charge of all things in the lobby, bar, and outside sales. And that includes the host, the bartenders, and to-go schedules. Um, as of late, our to-go business has been booming, especially due to catering orders. Now, our to-go sales are exceeding 30% of the total sales, which is, just to put that in context for you, we were below 10% just 4 or 5 short years ago. So there's been a huge bump there. We get feedback from our guests on, was your order accurate? Did you get everything you ordered for, right? If you asked for extra ketchup, extra sauce, did you get that? And then we also have another metric, on time. What percentage of the time were we on time? So again, those are the two areas we're really interested in executing on. Our guests tell us that those are the two most important things. And it makes sense, right? If you order to go somewhere, you want to make sure that you get all of it, and you want to make sure that you're not waiting forever for it. And also, Russ is in charge of beverage sales and catering sales growth. Now, Spencer Geller is our service manager. So again, Spencer is in charge of all things in the service areas and mainly the servers, right? But he also takes care of the busser schedules as well. And one of the challenges that he works with is coordinating server and busser is working together. And so there's a lot more to come with that. We have a metric. It's hard to explain, but we ask our guests, rate us 1 out of 5. How is your speed of service? As I mentioned earlier in the orientation, we live in a world where we have everything sort of at our fingertips, right? And so our guest patience with waiting for food for a long time has really been something that's changed in our business. And so speed of service is a big deal. Now, there are certain behaviors that we've been able to identify that will drive the speed of service. And those things are really driven by the servers, and that is using the Ziosk to ring in everything. That is a tool there for you. But if you think about it, what we're really looking at is we're looking at it from the guest point of view. If the kitchen is already starting to prepare their appetizer, for example, when you're still at the table, it's just going to seem like the speed of service was greater. Now, of course, there are other things other than that play into it. You want to greet your table in 30 seconds. You want to have food on the table in, as I say, 7 minutes if you're awesome, or 10 minutes if you're good. And that could be, I mean the first course by that. So you want to have breadsticks, salad, or soup on the table in that time. And that is how we sort of look at speed of service. And our guests, if we hit those things, getting food on the table that quick, our guests tend to tell us that that we're doing a good job of speed of service. There's also refills. So again, we talked about our guests love to come in, and because they know they can get as much salad as they want, as much bread, as much soup. And we have the Never Ending Pasta Bowl once a year, so they can have as much pasta as they want. Now, one thing to note here is why lots of our guests take care of the Italian abundance that we offer. The one thing that we have noted in our sort of research is that if a guest is offered a refill, they tend to rate the overall value and all other metrics higher, whether or not they say yes to the refill. So what this is really about is offering specific refills. So when you're going to the table, would you like some more bread? Would you like some more iced tea? Would you like some more soup? Would you like some more salad? Asking those types of questions is what this is really going after. And our guests, they really appreciate being offered the abundance. And again, just to reiterate the point, that is whether or not they take advantage or not. And then finally, Spencer is in charge of server sales. And this is important, really not from a sales point of view, but the higher the server sales are, the more money that you will make. And so we really try to drive and incentivize that, because we know that you're going to like working with us a lot more if you make a lot more money. So this is really the main reason why we focus on server sales. So we talked about managers. Let's talk about professionals. These are our assistant managers, and we refer to these ladies and gentlemen as professionals. Now, they are knowledgeable team members who are here to answer your questions and assist you. That is what we drive them to be passionate about. So we'll start with Christian Wheeler. Christian is the guy who's responsible for putting all the food away, and he's the lead CT in all things culinary. Amber Sears assists Corey in the oversight of the to-go and hosting. Her name is Amber Molman now. I'm sorry. She's also married to our certified trainer, Kyle, in the utility area. And again, she really helps Russ out with the to-go and host area and making adjustments there and training and follow-ups, and et cetera. But Amber is a service professional. And most recently, Seth Mason is our service professional. So when managers are on vacation or we're just, the holiday season, things like that, he is out there acting as a manager, able to do most of the functions that a manager can do. And he's here to help you. A very knowledgeable and energetic person. I'm sure you'll become familiar with Seth as well. Now, we talked about Olive Garden. Let's talk about Darden. Okay. Darden is the company that owns Olive Garden. Now, there are more than 1,500 Darden locations, and I think that number's old at this point, but this makes us the largest casual dining company in the world. And that's good for you because companies, they want to do business with us. So as of today, you'll be able to dine out with your family and friends, getting 25% off. Okay, at any of the brands on the screen. So not only Olive Garden, but Longhorn, Yard House, Ruth Chris's Steakhouse, Cheddar's, the Capitol Grill, Chuy's, Seasons 52, Eddie V's, and Bahama Breeze. Now, I want to point out here that this discount is not available if family and friends come to visit you or dine with you while you're working. However, a caveat here, I would love to meet your family. So please introduce me. I'd love to take care of an appetizer or dessert for them. And a lot of times that can be more than the 25% off discount. Now, Darden Dimes is a concept that is near and dear to my heart. And this program spans all concepts in Darden. Darden Dimes is an emergency fund to help in times of crisis when there is an immediate need for cash. If there were an emergency that happened in one of the following categories, and that is funeral expenses, if an immediate family member passes away, your home is destroyed or declared partially unlivable by a natural disaster, there is a relocation for personal safety issues because of domestic abuse. The work schedule is reduced by more than 50% to care for a family member. If a team member's children need to be moved to a safer environment, a flight, if there's a terminal illness or funeral for a loved one. And if something doesn't neatly fall in one of those categories, we have something called a matching grant. If a coworker is facing some kind of personal catastrophe not covered in these categories, we can raise money with the team. We can fill a money jar. We can donate our tips or raise funds another way on a coworker's behalf, and Darden Dimes will match it dollar for dollar. So there is the potential there to raise up to $500, and then Darden Dimes will provide another $500 to match that grant. So my goal for our location, of course, is to be 100%. And we are currently at about 97%, I believe. So my ask is this: donate 10 cents a week of your check. You're not even going to know it's gone. And if we just did the 10 cents, of course, if you want to do more, do more. But if you're going to do, if you did the 10 cents, we'll never go underfunded. Thank you ahead of time for your contribution. Now let's talk a little bit about the handbook. We discussed Darden's core values, and many of these overlap with our principles and our purpose here at the Olive Garden. So there isn't need to discuss most of them. However, there is one idea I think is useful to bring up, and that is the idea of being of service. Now, in the handbook, this is a core value and is defined. It defines being of service as being our pleasure to take care of you. And we treat people as special and appreciated by giving of ourselves and doing more than is expected, anticipating needs and making a difference. And so I mentioned a while ago, there was 3 things I wanted you to remember from orientation. This is the third. So the first, high standards. We have high standards because our guests expect it, and it feels good to have high standards in the work that you do. And respect. We show respect and we expect to be respected back, and have an attitude of being of service. This is a precursor to action often. Isn't that's an attitude. That's what it is. If you have an attitude of being of service, you're more likely to give great service. Now, healthcare providers provide healthcare for patients, for example, and so we're hospitality professionals. So we provide excellent hospitality for our guests. Keep this idea top of mind. We must attend to our work with a great attitude of being of service. Let's dig into the handbook a little bit more. Our non-discrimination policy is something that is evident in everything we do. I've given you a name tag. It reads, "We're all family here." Now, this means that we include everyone. Everyone is welcome to be a part of our family. And with this in mind, our discrimination policy is something that supports our culture. The language to both the non-discrimination policy and our harassment policy is exactly the same. Okay, so you can, if you're reading the handbook, you can literally swap out the words discrimination or harassment. And the meaning is the same on this slide if you swap out the words. We have a zero tolerance for any kind of discrimination or harassment by our guests or team members. Now, behaviors that create an offensive, hostile, or intimidating work environment, also zero tolerance for. We have zero tolerance for unwanted and unwelcome sexual overtones. A zero tolerance for sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or physical interactions of a sexual nature. Now, it may not always be obvious to us when a behavior is discriminatory. Now, as far as this behavior is considered for you and the team you're joining, we want to keep things light and professional. Keep this in mind as we want to have a friendly and relaxed environment. We need to protect our culture and the inclusion culture we provide. If you ever feel that a guest is being discriminatory, don't ignore it. But also, I ask that you don't address it. Get a manager involved and have them deal with it. That's what we're here for. You'll never have to deal with a difficult guest situation in this way. We're going to protect our culture, but we're also going to make sure that the guest feels like they've won for joining us. It's an interesting balance, but it's doable. Again, you'll not have to deal with confronting guests when it comes to this. Now, when it comes to really everything, right? But in this case, we're talking about harassment and discrimination. Perception is reality. And that means that if the perception exists that there was discrimination or harassment, then there was. All of us have beliefs that are not true objectively. It's just part of being human. But the objective part is not the important part. It's what you perceive to be real or true. The simplest way to put it is treat everyone the way you expect and want to be treated. Here are a list of things that could be considered harassment. Note that this is not an exhaustive list, but it begins to give us an idea and painting a clearer picture of what behavior is acceptable and what isn't. So there's a category for verbal, and this could be off-color jokes. It could be whistling, catcalls, or kissing sounds, sexual innuendos, unwanted telephone calls, or voice messages. Okay. Physical. So again, I always keep it to handshakes and high fives. Okay. And a lot of people get upset because there's hugging that happens. But you never know when this could be offensive, when somebody just might be nice. So when you're in the building, handshakes and high fives, no grabbing, groping, pinching, slapping, no shoulder massages, touching or rubbing a person's back, towel slaps, pulling on aprons. There's also a nonverbal category, right? And that is sexually suggestive facial expressions, okay? Looking a person up and down, blocking a person's path, inappropriate hand gestures, okay? These are all in the nonverbal category. And then there's the visual category, objects portrayed sexually, suggestive emails, text, social media. There's cartoons, phones, or photos, magazines, inappropriate memes. Please keep this out of the building, okay? These are strictly prohibited. If any of this were to become known that this was happening, it probably would mean that you wouldn't work with us. And it's not something that's, first of all, the act itself is something we don't want to have happen. But more importantly, even if it is sort of funny or you think it's funny, it will stop you from working with us. And that's not something that we want. Now, if you believe that you've had some kind of discrimination or harassment, or if you experienced some of that, they're strictly prohibited by law, first of all. So retaliation against anyone who makes a good faith complaint or participates in an investigation is grounds for termination. With this being said, we have strict guidelines around conducting investigations. We might ask, if you're a witness, that you don't share any of the information with anybody that works here. But if you have any concerns, we want you to be able to let us know in whatever way is comfortable for you. So you can certainly let employee relations know, and the 800 number is on the screen there. There's also the Darden Ethics Helpline, and that's there as kind of a reference area, so you can kind of figure out exactly what the terminology or the wording of what you're experiencing. You can always call Pam. Her number's on the screen, 407-245-4183. And you can always email me, rwatts@olivegarden.com. Either one of these things is going to escalate your concern for us to look into that. And we can start making sure that we are addressing the situation. Now, of course, switching our discussion to alcohol and drug policies, you can never attend work intoxicated. Now, if you're 21, if you're not 21, you're not allowed behind the bar ever. So if your position requires it, you'll be given an alcohol service course. So this is going to be servers, bartenders, to-go specialists. And please pay attention, because violations here, they don't allow for second chances. But we never serve an alcoholic beverage to a minor. And of course, the responsible alcohol service that you'll take during training is not only going to provide the necessary information, it also is going to be sort of it's important that you take in that information, because you will be held accountable for it, I guess is the best way to say it. Now, all new team members will watch and comply with the safety and sanitation training. This discusses things, how to wash your hands, for example, proper lifting techniques, chemical training. And there is a reason why I have this on the screen again. It's that important. A lot of times we think of safety, sanitation, hygiene. These are things that a lot of us take for granted. However, they are key to running a safe working environment. Now, once a year, you will get your performance review, as we discussed again. And I want to be sure that we want to recognize exceptional performance daily. And so guest compliments, for example, there is a pin that you will be eligible to get from that. So again, just want to highlight how important your performance is. It requires 2 slides on here, I believe. Let's talk about disciplinary action. Disciplinary action is not punishment. While it's true that punishment can be a disciplinary action, it's not always punishment. So with that said, it is not the role of Olive Garden or an Olive Garden manager to do any punishing. I've had interesting conversations with parents and team members about being punished. We don't do that. Okay. There isn't any kind of sinister intent. We focus on very clear guidelines, or we try to make them clear. The manager's role is to ensure that we're performing to a standard. And if we perform outside the parameters provided, a manager may have a disciplinary conversation with you. Now, the definition of discipline is teaching someone to do something the correct way after it's been done an incorrect way. And at this point, you've been issued the rules and expectations as a condition of employment, and you're required to uphold them. So again, as you're going through training, keep in mind that as you move through, you will be held accountable for the standards that are shared with you. Now, there are various categories when it comes to disciplinary action. For example, performance, attendance, personal conduct. And it's important to note that a performance discussion recap isn't admitting guilt. It's only an acknowledgement that the manager had a discussion with you. If for some reason you have information that is not included in the manager's portion of the statement or the performance discussion recap, there's an area for you to provide your statement. It's not necessary to do so. However, it's always good to state any concerns you have in writing. In the case of disciplinary action, this is how you do that. Now, there are some things that may circumvent disciplinary action. One is no call, no show. And that means you just didn't call or show up for your shift and you didn't give any notice. Using profanity in the dining room is another one, or just refusing to do what a manager requests of you. If you have any questions about disciplinary action, please reach out to me or really any manager, but you can always reach out to me regarding any questions here. Now, personal conduct, it comes back to respect, right? It is the expected way that we act towards one another as well as our guests. We should get along with one another, even when we're not best of friends. Of course, we have to get along and avoid arguing and other toxic behavior, but we also have to be able to communicate to get the job done, even when there is what I like to call personality conflict. We must be professional and have fun. We're going to spend significant amounts of our time at work, so we really should try to make sure that we're enjoying it. Now, if there are investigations regarding complaints or alleged issues about team members or guests, you may be asked to provide a written statement. These statements will be secured storedly and your identity will not be disclosed. So there's a lot of privacy around this, okay? We respect your privacy and really everyone's when it comes to investigations. We're not out to hurt anybody's reputation or anything like that. So we keep that in mind as we're conducting investigations if that has to happen. Now, if you do have concerns, there's some responsibility on your part to ensure that you're reporting these concerns. If something is bothering you, it's almost certainly bothering another team member as well. So please make sure that any concern that you have, you report to me, one of the other managers, or Pam. Her number is hanging on the coat closet. It's been mentioned earlier. This number is available in the handbook, the number of the employee relations hotline. Any one of these ways to report works. It's whatever you're comfortable with. That's why we have so many ways. So let's talk about work expectations. First, let's talk about visitors. Visitors are not permitted. If you happen to know a dining guest, that's one thing. But having someone come in just to spend social time with you while you're working is just not acceptable. Now, parking, we'll talk about in a little bit. Personal calls, we want to keep these to a minimum. We just don't want to disrupt our business or take focus away from our guests. I understand sometimes it has to happen, but we want to keep those to a minimum. Now, cell phones and cameras, okay, use should always be limited and always aligned with our social media and confidentiality policies. AirPods and headphones, these are not permitted for several reasons. Safety concerns, which is the being aware of your surroundings. And there have been some serious situations at Olive Garden, not our location, but at Olive Garden that I'm aware of, where people have been seriously injured due to, in part, not being aware of their surroundings due to having these earbuds in. So we want to maintain a professional appearance with our guests as well. Now, with personal conduct, we talked a bit about this, but everything from professionalism with coworkers to how we interact with guests is expected. We set the tone for the Olive Garden experience in the way we interact and greet other people. We'll talk about cash handling a bit later. With personal property, all personal belongings must be stored in the cash booth, which is the only designated area for them. Okay, so anything outside of the cash booth, for instance, storing it in storage rooms. Things like that, that is a violation of our policy of personal property. When it comes to breaks and meal periods, all food and breaks must be taken while you are not clocked in. And it's just the responsibility of each team member to follow this policy. And finally, we have a non-smoking environment. And that means there's absolutely no smoking anywhere on the premises. And this includes outside in the parking lot. And it also includes vapes and e-cigarettes. These expectations are in place to keep everyone safe, professional, and focused on delivering the best possible experience for our guests. Now, our attendance policy is as follows. More than one call off in a 30-day period is considered excessive. And at this point, we typically start the disciplinary process. Please do not use the Crowd app to call off. Let me repeat that. Do not use the Crowd app messenger to call off. Call the restaurant and speak directly with the manager on duty. Whenever possible, give a 2-hour notice. This gives us some chance to cover your shift. You are valuable, and we typically can't just go without you. We will have to, most of the time, replace you for that shift. Now, there's also the opportunity to use My Shift. This is part of the Crowd app where you can post your shift and have another team member pick it up. Once the shift is picked up, it will come off your schedule and appear on the other team member's schedule. Now, note that the shift must be picked up before your responsibility is fulfilled. Just posting the shift is not sufficient. Whenever you need clarity, please reach out to a manager on duty. Now, servers, bartenders, and to-go specialists, they all handle cash, and there's a large responsibility in that. Whomever we collect the tender with is responsible for that. Not doing so will be documented using disciplinary action. The great news is that under no circumstance will we ask you to cover an outstanding bill. On the other hand, it's also not permissible to confront a guest about non-payment. You can't follow them to the lobby or the parking lot. If for any reason you become aware a guest is leaving or has left without paying, you need to notify a manager immediately. And in the best case scenario, if you have any concerns about a guest not paying, please notify a manager immediately, the manager on duty. So let's discuss our responsibility when it comes to social media. First, always state who you work for. If you're posting about your job or brand, make sure it's clear that you work for Olive Garden. Transparency just builds trust. Next, be you. When posting, be authentic. Speak in your own voice and let your personality shine through. Just remember to keep it professional. Now, keep secrets secrets. Never post anything sensitive or private about the company or team members or guests. Confidentiality really protects everyone. Use good judgment and common sense. You're responsible for what you post. Make sure it's honest, accurate, and respectful. And stay safe. Be aware of your privacy settings and know what's visible to the public on your social media accounts. Work comes first. Don't let social media posts take you away from your responsibilities in the restaurant. Guests come first. Mistakes happen. If you make a mistake online, let your manager know right away so we can help you address it. And finally, talk to us. We have an open door policy for a reason. If you have concerns, bring them to us directly rather than posting them on social media. Now, by following these guidelines, we can ensure our online presence reflects positively on ourselves and the Olive Garden brand. Now, let's dig a bit deeper here. Let's talk about best practices when it comes to social media. Here's what you want to avoid. Don't post anything offensive, discriminatory, or could be seen as a threat of violence. Avoid posts that could create or contribute to a hostile work environment. Never share confidential information, and this includes promotional details, guest names, receipts, pictures, or any other personal information. Here's what to always remember. Nothing is truly private. Assume that guests, coworkers, or even leadership could see your posts. Be honest and accurate. Credibility does matter. Posts can easily be shared or traced back to you, so think before you post. The internet keeps records. Almost everything is archived. If you have work-related concerns, use the open door policy instead of airing them online. This is where we see a lot of the trouble. And importantly, you can be held responsible for what you post, even if you're at home and off the clock. Following these guidelines are going to keep our workplace safe, respectful, and professional while protecting both you and the company. Any questions, please ask Ryan. Now we want to discuss reporting to work on time. Please make sure that you check in with a manager every shift. And this is whether you're a host, server, whatever. We may have something to talk to you about regarding the shift, a change or something that we need to go over with you. But it's important that you at least say hi every shift. It's expected that you're in your position at your scheduled time. So if you're scheduled at 11 a.m., we expect you to be in the position at 11 a.m. working. And you can actually clock in up to 5 minutes early every day. So please make sure this happens. If you're not in your position at your scheduled time, you're going to be considered late. If you're going to be late, please call and speak to a manager. Please do not notify anyone other than a manager. So the reason why I say this is when you call, either the hosts or the to-go specialists are going to answer the call. If that happens, please wait. You might have to wait a few minutes to speak with a manager and let us know, because a lot of times we won't get the message. Now, due to the nature of the restaurant business, we're not able to provide anyone with an exact time of departure. In the restaurant business, it's difficult to do this. Now, with that said, you're going to see the following abbreviations on your schedule regarding when you'll get off work. Now, during lunch, you may see the initials LBD after your time. For example, 11 a.m. to LBD. This stands for lunch business decline. What this means is that after the peak of business or the busiest period of lunch, you'll be among the first to go. The managers alone make these decisions, and the managers make them based on the flow of business. Or you may see the abbreviation LCL after your time. This stands for lunch close. For example, 11 a.m. to LCL. This means that you'll be here until lunch close or 4 p.m. A similar situation can be found on the dinner schedule. DBD stands for dinner business decline. If you see this next to your scheduled time, for example, 4 to DBD, this means that after the busiest point at dinner, you'll be among the first to be cut. You may also be scheduled 4 to DCL or 4 to dinner close. We close at 10 p.m. 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. And Friday and Saturday, we close at 11. If you're scheduled to close, you'll be here until after close and after the duties, the responsibilities of the closer are fulfilled. If you have questions about your schedule, you can always see your department manager or Ryan. Now, your work schedule can be found on your phone using the Crowd app. Or you can also look it up online at crowd.darden.com. This is where you can switch shifts, request time off. It's important to note that this is the only way to see your schedule. A paper copy is typically not posted anywhere. Again, questions here, please let me know. You'll be clocked in for orientation. That'll be the last thing that we do. You'll be given a 3-digit number to use to clock yourself in and out before and after your shifts. You can do this at any of the 8 computers throughout the dining room and kitchen. Now, please understand that it's your responsibility to clock yourself in and out for all of your shifts. If you don't take this step, for example, you forget to clock out at the end of the night, the managers must make sure that everyone is clocked out to close down the computers for the evening. If you're still on the clock, the manager will do his or her best, to make sure that they accounted for all the time that you worked. However, at this point, it's a guess. Either we don't pay you enough or we pay you too much and irresponsibly spend our investors' money. Now, with this also being said, is that typically it should take you 30 minutes or less to get off the clock. If there's anything greater than that, a conversation and reason should be presented to the manager. Now, also, if you're a bartender, server, or busser, this is going to impact the amount of tips you get if you don't clock out. So it's not in a good way. So again, it really is your responsibility to make sure that you're recording your work time accurately. The managers are here to assist you with that if there's an issue, but it is your responsibility to make sure that it is done. Our desire is to pay you for all the time you're here and maximize your earnings. However, we must do this in an ethical way. And the best thing you can do is make sure that you clock yourself in and out when you're done. Now, one of the benefits of working with us is that we're very flexible with our schedule, or with your schedule, excuse me. However, the further out you plan, the more flexible we can be. Often when we wait last minute, there's very little we could do for you if your shift is not covered. As far as request offs, please give a 3-week notice. Often we can give you the time if you request this far out. It's never a problem typically. Sometimes you may see the days and dates are blocked out, and this is due to holidays, the volume of the requests we have, and other considerations. If a date is blocked out, here's what I want you to do. Listen up. Write a crowd message and copy me, Ryan, and your department manager. So if you're a server, and let's say you want to be off July 4th, you're going to write both me and Spencer, and you're going to say, hey, July 4th is blocked out. I would like to request that day off. What we can do at this point in time is if we can give someone the day off, then we're going to do it first come, first serve. And that crowd messaging will help us timestamp and know who we go with first. Excuse me. Now, using the crowd messenger, it just allows us to track when that request came in. Now, additionally, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, these are all mandatory work days. Now, here is the caveat here. I understand these are important days. The other thing is that we have over 120 team members right now. If I schedule all 120 team members, it's going to be crazy. We don't need that many folks on those days. So if you need time off for the holidays mentioned, any of those mentioned, or any other holiday, please message Ryan and your department manager to address this now. Now, if there are any days you need off in the next 30 days, we're going to take care of that on your Crowd app at orientation today. Now, we've discussed the following topic previously, though maybe not by name. We have a dispute resolution process, and we've discussed different elements of this throughout in various ways, but I just want to make sure that you know it exists. This is a company-funded process that allows for addressing any disputes that may come up. And there are 4 steps. The first we've referenced, this is the open door. Most issues, 99% of them, are solved by the open door. And that means you simply bring it to someone's attention. And you can do that with me, with Pam, or you can call the Employee Relations Hotline. The number is 800-817-3171. It's on the screen there. And there are 3 ways to do that, whatever you're comfortable with. You can talk with me, Pam, or you can call that 800 number on the hotline. And if the process were to move on to peer review, mediation, and arbitration, the costs here are covered by the company. Typically, this might be used for an example if you felt like you were improperly terminated. You are able to use the open door. And if we need to, we can move into peer review, mediation, and arbitration. And what this really does is it protects you from being improperly dismissed, right? Because the manager, we're busy enough. We don't want to deal with this. And it keeps us doing the right thing. Of course, we want to do the right thing for you. I can speak for myself on that and for Bridget, Russ, and Spencer. However, this really gives you the tools to ensure that that's happening. Now, while cell phones can be used during training to access the training modules, while we're working, we should keep them off and away. It's important to know that managers could be accountable for what you're looking for on your phone, what you text, and what you post on social media. You can ask me about specifics there. Also, there's a growing concern about the cleanliness of cell phones. There are a lot of studies that have come out that have talked about cell phones being containing more bacteria than a public toilet seat. So if you're ever on your phone, make sure that you wash your hands afterwards. If a manager were to witness you not doing so, it would be something that we would have to address. So we talked about personal items. We'll discuss it again here. All personal items must be stored in the cash booth. Not anywhere else is acceptable. These are things like your keys, your phone, etc., your bag. And also, I'll talk about beverages. All of your beverages, whether you bring them in or you get them at the Olive Garden, should be in a clear 20-ounce cup with a lid and straw. This is for health department reasons. If the health department were to come in, or our total quality team, which does random audits, and they see that you've got a drink without a straw, even if you bring the beverage from outside the restaurant, it will be a violation. Additionally, it's got to be stored at the side station below any food contact services or in the cash booth area. Now, at the Olive Garden, we take security very seriously. And so the following security guidelines, they're followed severely. Firstly, no manager or team member may be in the building alone. There always has to be at least one manager and two team members. Before we open, if you're scheduled to come to work, come to the rear door and ring the bell. A manager will let you in. And once you're in, you may not exit the building without a manager escort until we open for business. If you need to exit the building, please let a manager know so they can let you out. Now, after we open, please enter and exit through the front doors. Never open the rear door without a manager or key team member present. After we close, we exit through the front door. However, the doors will lock behind you. It is always best to leave with a buddy, and so I ask that we leave in pairs whenever possible. Also, we don't allow anyone to re-enter after we close. If something is forgotten inside, you may call a manager, and the manager can make the call whether they will bring it up to you or not, but you may not re-enter the building. Now, just as a general rule, everyone must notify a manager when they leave the building during their shift. Now, as you can see on the screen, there's several other things. We hang up the sign here an hour before we close every night that just says, hey, unfortunately, if you leave and we close, we cannot let you back in. Of course, inform your manager immediately of any kind of suspicious activity or phone calls. You can never give out any company, employee, or guest information over the phone. Leave that to a manager if it's to be done at all. The final trash run, meaning the back door, has to be closed and sealed 1 hour before closing. And off-duty team members are regarded as guests and are not permitted to be in non-guest areas. In the onboarding process, we gave you a dress and appearance guide. So please plan to be in the proper uniform for each shift. So as you can see, for servers, bartenders, bussers, and to-go specialists, you will be issued one of the green aprons. A couple of notes here. We need to make sure that the apron is at knee length or below, and that it is tied in a bow on your left hip. As far as pants, you can wear black slacks or blue jeans or black jeans. The rest of the details you can find here or on the document you have previously been issued. But also, I want to point out that gum chewing is not allowed at any point in time. There is microscopic saliva that is shot out through the mouth while you're chewing gum. And all team members who enter the kitchen have to have their hair restrained. So that's whether you're on the clock, off the clock, your shift is over. You have to have your hair tied back. Now, each position has sort of its own special responsibilities, and we'll take a few moments to cover some of these. If you are hired as a dishwasher, it is important to know that if and when you are scheduled to close this position, you'll be required to stay with the manager until she or he leaves. With proper communication, there can be exceptions, but this must take place before the beginning of the closing shift. See Ryan with questions and clarifications there. Now, similarly, hosts who are scheduled to close are responsible for the security of the restaurant after close. An hour before close, the host must hang a sign informing the guests of our policy of not re-entering after close. We referenced that sign on an earlier slide. Now, additionally, the door must be locked at exactly the closing time, not before and not after. As team members and guests leave, the host is required to notify them that they will not be allowed to re-enter the building after they leave. In that case, in the case that someone does try to re-enter the building after the doors are locked, get a manager immediately and never, ever open the door for them. If you are scheduled to open, your presence may require to enter the building. Remember that a manager cannot come into the building by themselves. They need 2 other team members. So we strategically schedule openers to make sure that the manager can get the building. On most days, we arrive at 9 a.m. So if you're scheduled to open, do not arrive after this point. You'll be considered late. Also, if you're scheduled before 11, again, the front door is unlocked at 11, you're going to have to come to the back door and get in that way. So at the you'll have to ring the back doorbell on the silver handleless door in the back, and manager will peek through the window there that you see on the screen and let you in. Now, if you're scheduled after 11, just enter through the front door. At the end of the night, even after close, we exit through the front door. We never open the back door without a manager present at any time. Now, we take both allergens and dietary restrictions seriously. Okay, so hear what I say there. If a guest or an entree you're cooking is preparing, or you're cooking or preparing is marked as an allergen, a manager must be made aware. Must be made aware. This is very important and must be done every time for the safety of our team. We're going to speak with the guests and make sure that we're clear on what allergens they have, and to make sure that we are able to safely have them dine with us. And we're going to make sure that we oversee the preparing of the entrees. So for our servers and guest convenience, an allergen is available on the Ziosk, and that is updated regularly and has the most current information on it. It's for both the servers and the guests to review, so share that with them. Now, you may begin training directly after orientation or at a later time, and the expectation for training is as follows, okay? Get here on time. Be an active participant. Get involved with the training. It is your experience, your opportunity to learn the job. Ask questions and be attentive to the trainer. Follow the trainer's lead. Always use the training guide. It is my expectation, Spencer, Bridget, and Russ's, that you are clear on all of the training material that is on the screen here. So if you're hired for a server, you know what's in that server training guide. If you're hired as an appetizer cook, you know what's in that pocket guide. On the job training will always be done side by side. We use the I do, we do, you do format. When you park, and you can see on the screen here, we've got this Google vision. The road, Beachmont, is at the top of the screen, and the rear of the building is at the bottom. There are some suggested places to park. You can park at the top near Beachmont, and the 3 spots in the side of the building, or behind the building. As a rule, the rear 2 rows are a good bet, as well as the front row underneath the road sign. Now, one of the features on the Crowd app is called Grow My Career. Here you can find the path to rise within the company. Now, we're at a point here where we realize the best people come from within our organization. As I said, I began my journey as a server many years ago, and I worked my way up to general manager. You can use this tool. You can click on the different roles and find out what the earning potential is, the benefit, the key responsibilities, and more. It's certainly worth checking out. If you're interested in moving up while in your journey, please speak with your general manager. Just a fun fact, 80% of our managers in the whole company, Olive Garden, were promoted after first being a team member. So there could be a future for you here. Now, I want to bring up the policy on fraternizing between managers and team members. I'll also note that this is informational. Team members are often not the individuals who will be held accountable. It is not a breach of their duty. It's just actually the manager's duty. But simply put, personal connections, relationships, friendships between managers and team members is strictly forbidden. So that includes, texting on the phone, social media, etc. However, if we see each other in public, we don't have to act as if the other doesn't exist. But the manager is typically advised to leave the premises as soon as possible. Now, in addition, the manager cannot give you rides, lend you money, or come over for the holidays. Seems like I'm being funny. These are all things that have been offered to me over my career at Olive Garden. The manager may also receive or send texts on their personal cell phone from any team member, including professionals. They may also not be connected on social media. This is designed so that there's never a perception of unfairness. Some of us have personalities that are more simpatico or compatible with others. And when this tendency occurs with a manager, we don't want fraternization to interfere with that. So please see me with any questions that you have on this. The Ohio Department of Health has asked me to provide you a document listing 13 diagnoses in which you're required to notify us of the diagnosis. Now, I will provide this with you after the orientation, and you'll be required to sign a document logging that you were given this list. Simply put, we have an illness policy. Okay. If you're vomiting, have diarrhea, sore throat, fever, or jaundice, please call off. 2 hours, 2-hour notice whenever possible. In many cases, this means that you're contagious. That's what those symptoms mean. That's why we list those symptoms. We want to protect our guests and team from any kind of illness that can be spread. To support our employee ill policy, we've created sick pay, right? So we don't want you to feel discouraged from calling off if you are really sick. Sick pay is a benefit in which you are paid for the time off or taking care of a family member who's ill. The longer you work with us, the more time you accrue. For each 30 hours you work, you earn 1 hour of sick time. After being employed 90 days, you may access this benefit. So you have to be here 90 days before you can use this. Now, if you desire to use the benefit, right? So if you're ill and you're like, wow, I don't want to miss out on that money, make sure you let the manager know you want to use your sick hours. We don't automatically assume that you want to when you call off. You may want to save those. You have to make the request. If you have questions here, please feel free to ask. A benefit you're automatically enrolled in, and this is great actually. This has been greatly improved over the years, is days. It starts for Darden at your service. And it's a free confidential benefit to help you and your family with life's challenges, right? We live in a challenging world. And this is a valuable resource, such as mental health coaching, mental health counseling, expert advice, referrals, and more. And there's no charge for you. You can use the little QR code to access this here. Or you can visit Total Rewards in the Crowd app for more information there. But this is an excellent, excellent benefit that you are automatically enrolled in. Now, when you hear the word or the phrase Total Rewards, think benefits and pay. If you have questions, you can call 1-888-DRI-EDGE, or after 48 hours from the activation of Crowd, you can get this Total Rewards. And there's over 100,000 discounts and offers in the discount mall. And you can make adjustments to your benefits, set up direct deposit, and so much more. Again, I just want to reiterate, this link probably won't be available until about 48 hours after orientation. Now, to reward your hard work and your tenure, right, we offer vacation pay. It's important to note, we just talked about sick pay. Sick pay can only be used if you're ill. This is where vacation pay comes in. The longer the tenure you're with us and the more hours on average you work, the more you'll make. For example, after 2 years, if you average 30 hours or more a week, you're entitled to a $500 anniversary pay bonus. And the longer you stay with us, the more this payout becomes. And I have the chart here on the screen so you can see. So if you average 30 hours a week or more, and you've been here for 15 years, you get $2,000 this bonus. Of course, we don't automatically schedule the time off for you, but this could be vacation pay. It could just be seen as a bonus on your part. But this is an awesome benefit we're able to offer you. Now let's talk about food before, after your shift. Okay, shift. So if you work 2 shifts in one day, you have 2 opportunities here. You are entitled to a meal at no cost. Now, this may be chosen from a select menu: soup, salad, and breadsticks, or select pasta and sauces. Now, if you'd prefer something else, or if you'd like to add protein, for example, meatballs, sausage, chicken, you only pay 50% of the cost of the side. Now, either way, everything must be rang in before it's paid for and it's eaten. Also, you must be off the clock, on break, not yet started or finished with your shift to eat. Okay. The one thing to note here is that the discount is not available, the free discount or the percentage discount is not available for kids' meals. So here's how it works. Okay. Let's say that you're done with your shift and you're hungry, you want to get something to eat. First, get a meal slip from the to go specialist. Write your name, the date, and the item you want to order. You want to have a manager sign for the food. Again, if needed, pay at this time, but you have to make sure it has to be rang in before you can eat it. Let's talk about the Darden Savings Plan. I recommend and encourage you to sign up for the Darden Savings Plan. It's a 401k plan funded by you and Darden to help you save for retirement. You only have to be 18 to sign up now, so scan the QR code and take the steps to begin your savings. This 401k stays with you even if you ever decide to leave Darden. After you've been here a year, Darden will make quarterly matches to your savings that will supercharge your retirement savings. You really can't lose. This is free money that is invested for your future. Another great way to save is our stock program. You're eligible for a 15% discount on this program. And after 1 year, you can sell the stock for the full price. It's an incredible way to grow your money. Now, for all benefit related questions, call 1-888-DRI-EDGE. In many cases, you have 31 days to enroll in benefits. From the 401k to life insurance to hospitalization, please address your questions to the Total Rewards Department. Please take time after your training to provide feedback on the training. We always appreciate your feedback. Now, here's what you can expect as you move forward. We're going to follow up with you for each of the first 5 weeks. I want you to expect great training that sets you up for success. I want you to expect the managers to be open and ready to address your concern. Clear expectations regarding your performance and what we need you to do. And you'll be given a performance review with the potential for a wage increase unless you're a bartender, server, or busser, and now to-go specialist. And of course, opportunities to advance. We want to give you opportunities to grow. Your day one training will consist of several online modules to help give you a baseline of knowledge for your training. You're expected to come to work in the proper uniform for each shift, including slip-resistant shoes. This is regardless of any position that you're in. Now, let's review. The Olive Garden principles really sum up to 2 ideas. Do you remember what these are? I hope that you set high standards and respect. The genuine Italian dining experience consists of 3 things. Do you remember? How about food, service, and atmosphere? What is the name of the largest food-based charity that Olive Garden partners with? Feeding America. I heard you loud and clear there. Servers get graded by guests. Servers get graded by guests. Okay, our service manager's name is? That's right, Spencer Geller. Our culinary manager's name is? Bridget Beers. Our LBO's manager's name is? Russ Johnson. Now, true or false, Red Lobster is a Darden restaurant? False. It used to be. 2014, we parted ways with them. It is key to our success to have an attitude of being of service. Disciplinary action is the same thing as punishment. True or false? False. How far out do we need to request time off? If you said 3 weeks, you're right on. We call the back of the house the heart of the house. True or false? False. We call it the culinary team. Team members are provided 1 hour of sick pay for every blank hours worked. You remember this? 30. You must be 21 to sign up for the Darden Savings Plan, the 401k. False. 18. So again, thank you for making it through this. We gave you a lot of information today. If you have any concerns, feel free to give us a call or an email. I'm probably sitting right there, but I want to make sure you have this contact information there. It's been great to be able to spend this time with you, and I hope you enjoyed the soup and salad. And I thank you very much for joining our team.